This is We All Be News and Radio.
Ron Hurd. Get up out of bed. Let's go. Let's go. Ron Hurd. That's the word. Get out of bed. Give me a jingle. My number 051. Get out of bed. Let's go. Don't be afraid. This is Herb Smith calling you. Herb Smith. All right, I know you're famous and all that kind of stuff, but let's go. Get out of bed.
And welcome back, family, to another wonderful edutainment edition of the Artivist Presents We All Be Radio. I'm your host for the Empower segment, Brother Ron, also known as R2, C2, H2, the Artivist. And we got a great one for you tonight, a very special one with a very special guest. Feel free, family, to call in at area code 646-652-4593. Once again, that's area code 646-652-4593. If you scared to get on the air, as they say, we got the chat room that will be open. It should be open right now. Feel free to type in your questions, your comments, or your concerns in the chat room. And guess what, family? It may be read on the air to our distinguished guests. Got a wonderful man. I want to give him a proper introduction because this is like really a cool, wonderful opportunity for not only you all, but also for me. Brother Judge Joe Brown was born on July 5th, 1947 in Washington, D.C. A reality television judge known for his direct and blunt, no-frills method of addressing plaintiffs, an approach he refers to as tough love. Joe Brown grew up in South Central Los Angeles as the child of two dedicated and diligent school teachers. Brown graduated from Dorsey High School in Los Angeles, then attended UCLA as a political science major, and put himself through school by working extracurricular jobs as a ditch digger and a truck loader, an approach that carried him through his undergraduate years. Prompted by a friend to apply to law school, Brown then re-enrolled at UCLA and took legal classes while paying his expenses via substitute teaching. In 1973, after graduation, he relocated to Tennessee, accepted posts with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and Legal Services, and in time worked his way up to become the first black prosecutor in Memphis history and director of the Memphis Public Defender's Office. Following a 12-year tenure as an attorney in private practice, Brown received an appointment to judge of Division 9 of the Shelby County State Criminal Courts in Tennessee in 1990. Nearly a decade later, executive producer John Terrazino tapped Brown to headline the syndicated Judge Joe Brown, which began its run in 1998. After a strong run, the show was not renewed for the 2014 season. Prior to his TV show, Judge Joe Brown was best known for presiding over the last hearings for James Earl Ray in 1997. Ray tried to establish that he had been coerced into pleading guilty in the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Brown was removed from the case on March 6, 1997, when the Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that Judge Brown's decisions appeared to be biased in Ray's favor. No replacement judge was ever appointed, and Ray died the following year. James Earl Ray actually died on my birthday, April 23rd, 1998. That's just a little small note. Get a hero there. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and laymen, boys and girls, I bring to you the one and only, the man who's truly beyond category, Brother Judge Joe Brown. How you doing tonight, sir?
All right, I'm going to make a few corrections in your resume reading there.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was not appointed to Division 9 State Criminal Court. I was elected. I was the first brother to be elected to the criminal court rather than appointed. And the other thing, it was not John Terenzio that discovered me. I hired him some years later, and it was a guy from Australia named Peter Brennan. He came up and says, "Mike, would you like to do this here television show?" Also, a little bit more African American history. It is the longest running, continuously running TV show for a black man in TV history.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We couldn't make a contract agreement, and there are other things to be done. I've got my own company known as Celebritunity, and we just signed a deal with Wesley Snipes in a movie we're coming up with, and we've got a few productions coming out of Miami.
Wow.
So that sort of takes care of itself. But anyway, right now I'm running for district attorney here in Memphis, Shelby County. You know how the preachers get called?
Yes, sir.
I get called for that. My own business talking about I'm just going to retire, and people started telling me, you got to run for this. This is just not right what's going on. I said, no, let me think about it. And then I checked it, and I said, I got to run. I got called to this mission, it looks like, and it's quite a mission. It will be, when I get elected, the first time an African American has ever been the district attorney for this area. And I know from 40 years involvement in this field that I've been in that the DA's office is a gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Usually it swings one way, or let's put it this way, from one side of the fence to the other. And I'm not talking about in jail or out jail.
Mm-hmm.
It has been a bastion of the entrenched power structure around here, and it's become something of an economic thing. White, black, brown, red, yellow. If you're middle class, if you've been a good old boy but you've made some big money, you don't count. If you are some good old boy living in the trailer parks out here in Millington, you don't count. If you're black, middle class, living in the inner city or out east, if you moved out that far, you don't count.
Mm-hmm.
If you're Hispanic, you don't either. If you're Asian, you don't count. And that is a travesty. My so-called opponent boasts of having 15% of her staff as African American. Well, they've got plenty of African American lawyers, and we constitute 60+% of the county's population. The police department, to an extent, the sheriff's department, and other entities, the public defender's office, they all reflect that status. I don't see 15%. But in any event, we need to change that so you get an equal reflection of the people that go through that system being involved in what happens with that system. Now, that's why I decided to run. And good Lord help you if you're a woman. I guess you get no relief. First woman DA in there, and she doesn't seem to give much of a damn about what happens to women. I think she probably got molested or something at some point in her life because she seems to have such a disdain for ordinary women. Those 12,000 rape kits that have been untested could have led to a lot of solved sexual offenses. That's why we've been collecting DNA evidence for the last 2 decades so that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And one case, one perp wound up committing 32 to 34 extra rapes when he could have been caught after the first 2 had the kits been tested. It took this courageous young woman, Megan Evos, to come forward and blow the whistle. And I salute her for that. And she's a white young lady, and she's a very courageous and brave person. We need more like that. And it's time that this county stood up for itself and said, hell no, we're tired of this charade. We need somebody who's going to be dedicated to, capable of, competent for the position, experienced, wise in the ways of the world and the practice of the law, and with enough savvy to do something about the situation we have. Now, it is just, I can't think of much right about what's going on down there. The morale is low. This office has the lowest conviction rate in the last 52 years. They have the highest sentences given in the United States of America for simple possession of marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
And almost 90% of the people who get charged are African-American youth, even though the Justice Department and the ACLU show that there is an equal across-the-board use of the substance. I'm not advocating its use, but it just looks like something else is going on. And I suspect it's because somebody has either an ambition or is being guided to being a governor or a gubernatorial candidate and wants to be known as being tough on crime. So it's tied up down there. The courts are a mess because she can't move anything. She doesn't have the experience with running a large office. She hasn't been top to bottom in the criminal system. She's only been in one division for her entire career before she became Bill Gibbons' executive assistant, and it's really kind of sad down there to see somebody that doesn't know what happens in front of a jury when you get to a different court other than the one she was familiar with, does not know what it's like to be out in the streets, can't walk the streets, which goes to one of my principles. You should be able to walk where you represent. And she certainly doesn't know anything about protecting womanhood and promoting manhood, because it just looks like there's more of the same old that does nothing to promote any development of alternatives to criminal conduct in the youth. Now, I think that is an absolute shame, and I'm going to do something to change that. We're going to have some call-in hotlines. We're going to have some citizens committees. The DA's office is going to have a civilian review board for police misconduct. That's something very new. We're going to have a man-up campaign that I'm known for nationally, and we're going to spread that around. We're going to get community involvement with what's going on. I'm going to have DA assistants embedded with various police bureaus so they can keep a handle on what's going around and about. We'll have somebody down 24/7 to vet these cases, so every single somebody that's arrested is not put on a court docket unless it's necessary. And I will see to it that we get a rationalized, streamlined, and an effective system of prosecution and some properly trained prosecutors who have high morale and incentives to do better. And doing better, in my estimation, is not how many people you lock up, put in jail, or get convicted. It's got to do with, do you follow the Constitution? Specifically, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, nor property without due process of law. How well do you abide by the due process of law requirement is going to be how you assessed in my office when I get that office for the people. Now, let me stop running on here. I sound like I'm on a stump. Okay.
But I really appreciate that, because you're telling us your platform. And that's really important for people to be informed voters. And, you know, when I listen to you talk, and one thing I admire about you, Brother Judge Joe Brown, is that you really know how to balance the Hollywood and the hood. You really know how to walk the walk and talk the talk. Like Rudolph Kipling in this line from Elf, his poem, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, where do you get that type of balance from? I mean, because you get respect inside and outside the courtroom, inside and outside Hollywood, in the hood, in neighborhood.
Man of the people. I've never been dedicated to making money. I didn't want to do law. You said that. My major didn't start off as science. It started off at UCLA as physics.
Oh, wow. You can't believe everything you read on the internet, Dan. You just proved that many times.
Yeah. Now, one thing I want to say about this thing with youth. We have had the Justice of the United States down here, and they report the most egregious discrimination, prejudice, and bias they have ever encountered in prosecution of juveniles and adults who are wrapped up in whatever happens down at juvenile court. Now, the Republican incumbent does not seem to get it that she's supposed to be in charge of those prosecutors, and they're actually run by the juvenile court staff rather than by the DA's office. And that egregious discrimination in prosecution has not been corrected, and they're coming up with their third report soon to be released, and it's not going to show anything better. So when I went down there to see how these prosecutors were doing, I got put in a very untenable position. I got reminded by this woman who was a college graduate, a mother, been in a stable family situation, that I always said I'd protect womanhood. I looked at her case, and it turned out that 9 years ago, 8 years ago, what happened was that somebody from out of state filed a claim that she was the mother of his daughter.
Okay.
Now, the woman has a stable situation at home and a full-grown son. So she kept it away from the rest of her family members that she had been arrested 3 times and brought down for this. First off, that court did not have jurisdiction over that matter because there was no child support being paid. There was no claim of paternity by the woman. There was no court order. There was no collection of public assistance. They had no jurisdiction, and all they had to do was let my client hold her right hand up and let me ask her the question, ma'am, do you have a daughter? Yes or no? No, I don't. And that's supposed to be the end of the matter.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't even been proper to even gone that far because the court didn't have jurisdiction. Now, that whole operation down there is being run for profit. Maximus and the previous corporate entity that wound up controlling everything from the representation of DHS, Child Protective Services, the prosecutor's office, the public defender component, which was no longer with the Shelby County Defender's Office. It seems that back in 1979 and 80, Attorney Ruby Warden, that's the mayor's wife, and Attorney DeArmey Bailey, state for judge, former Judge DeArmey Bailey, back again. They won so many cases down there that Judge Turner banned everybody from the PD's office. Now, the case of Judge Turner, I think, an embarrassment to civilized people around here. You know how we always get hit up with what are your qualifications, and you're either not qualified or you're overqualified. Now, here's a supposed judge in there from 1963 up until the beginning of the 21st century who did not have a law license. He did not have a law degree. He did not have a college degree. He did not have an associate, and he dropped out of high school.
Wow.
So the Supreme Court said he was incompetent due to his educational deficiencies to preside over a case unless both parties in writing agreed to let it. So that's how we got all of these referees and magistrates appointed down there by him and then carried on by the current incumbent who legislated a job for himself when he was in the state senate. Now, I don't know about you, but running for politics or political office is about the hardest job I've ever had. Mm-hmm. I've done it several times for others. It requires long hours, a lot of sweat in the summer, a lot of you can hardly keep your eyes open, you can't stand this anymore, and you get in office. Now, to me, when you get somebody down there that's never done that and starts acting like a complete autocrat, much worse than you would find in an ordinary court, it sickens me. Now, on a scale of 1 through 10, I think what I was doing down there was about on the scale of 1.5. And I routinely dealt with and expected attorneys to get at least as vigorous with me when they were in my court as I was trying to be down there and at least get somebody to comply with the law.
Right.
Now, and some people, I said, look, let me put it to you this way. You know, we've got people in our history who were confronted with something wrong. And irrespective of how wrong it was, they did what they had to do in order to take a stand against it.
That's right.
And I like manhood. But between me and you, we have not had that in a number of years in this county. I don't know what's happened, but it seems that too many of the people that we look to for leadership don't have cojones. Now, some do, but I mean, these people are so cautious and so off into money that it is pathetic. Like, look at, what's this person, Thaddeus Matthews?
Right, I'm glad you brought Thaddeus. Go ahead, go into Thaddeus, brother. Thaddeus Matthews, a local radio personality with a large following. Y'all had to follow him out, correct? Y'all two fell out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a little bespectacled. And he's about trying to improve his ratings and make money at the expense of the people. Now, we know what happened with him. He's got that pending indictment for that child porn, and he's got a new one for stalking, and they've got him squeezed by the balls, he dances when he is whispered in his ear to dance, and he's trying to support the Republican Party. He's anti-democratic. I let him put me on there so he'd try to boost his ratings, and then he tried to hit me for money. And I said, it ain't going to happen. And meanwhile, quit trying to extort these young women who are coming in here running for political office for the first time and don't know what's going on, and you're trying to work them. Now, see, I don't like that. So he's railing right now because he's lost control, and he looks a little foolish. But we've got to do something about taking a stand, and I have, for the 40-some years I've been in this town, and I really never left it. I still got my place here, and I flew a lot back to L.A. Let me just say this. I stood up for the people, and sometimes nobody was there to watch my back. But now I'm trying to stand up for everybody once again, and I'm getting to be an old man. Well, not really, but I say that. And times, most of the time, I'll have to go tell you, I'm not as good as I used to be, but most of the time I'm better than I ever was. So I just need people to watch my backs and people to come out and vote for the Democratic Party now that we have got it worked out a bit. In fact, I think it has gotten straightened out. Brian Carson, the new chair, is learning quickly. Bill Gill is keeping all of the information and everything agitated in the right way, and I'm putting the muscle behind everybody. So let's vote Democratic, and when you vote Democrat this time, you can be confident that you're getting what you think you'll get instead of an elephant in disguise. Now, they've got all these papers and ballots out there that have the word Democrat on it, on them, but there's only going to be one official ballot put out by the Democratic Party, which will include everyone who won in the primary and all of the judicial candidates that we endorse. So there will be something unique, which we're not going to disclose right now, about our ballot that will make it known as the official ballot. All the rest of them, that is people trying to pimp the public, trying to make money, because this is where they get the big money in the pocket, for trying to go out and push this, that, and the other candidate, and they're often claiming to be Democratic, and they've got Republicans slipped in on it.
Well, Brother Brown, let me ask you. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was asking you because you brought up Thaddeus Matthews, and I know he raised some interesting issues. Like I know you mentioned earlier in the conversation about your television production company, Celebritunity. And Thaddeus claimed, and other people have claimed, that you are using your run for office as a way to keep your name in the media to stay relevant because you really want to get back into television and you're not interested in serving the people of Shelby County.
Fool is unaware of the fact I never left it. You see, the bottom is I did not get into Hollywood by being an actor or a character. I got brought in because I got covered by 60 Minutes, Nightline, Ed Bradley Street Stories, places around the world for what I'd been doing for 6, 7, 8 years while I was on office, coming up with innovative stuff to reduce the crime problem in this county. Statewide, the recidivism rate for felons was 78 to 80%, and in my court, it was 18 to 20. Something was working. And to this day, I can walk down anywhere in Memphis, and somebody might come up to me and say, "You remember me?" And I might say, "No." "Should I?" "Well, you gave me some time." And then I'll probably crack something like that. "I give you enough." No. The thing about being a man and can do, or being a woman and what women do, are supposed to do. When I got that, I couldn't be a crook any longer. I had to straighten up. And I'm manager of this hotel. I want you to come in as my guest. See, that kind of thing happened. Back to him. You see, I tell young brothers all the time, you don't have to do something stupid to get somewhere. You don't have to sell drugs. You don't have to be an irrelevant somebody where all you're talking about is trying to play hip-hop. You don't have to be an athlete. But if you do something for the people, keep doing stuff for the people, keep doing what you think is the right thing to do with your conscience as a guide, if you have one. then someday, somehow, some way, the case is going to develop where you are the only one that can be looked to handle a certain situation, and you will get your reward. Now, that I am doing that, and if somebody else in Hollywood is paying attention to it or around the country because it's somebody acting like they've got balls and knows how to be a man, so be it. I can't help it. Now, they've been taking poll after poll, and it shows I'm the most trusted man in America. I come out number one most trusted, and our president comes out somewhere around number 56. But when
wow.
I don't give a damn about who you are, what you think you're about. I will tell the truth on you if you ask me or you put yourself in a position where it needs to be trolled. And I'm not too nice about it. But, see, that's what I do. So when you get somebody that really, translation, what's going on is, look, the man's being a man. We don't see too many of those, They run around with a different agenda. He's got his foibles. He doesn't lie. He does what he does. He'll admit it. But he stands up and does those things that men are supposed to do, and he tries to exemplify manhood. Now, one thing I tell people, I don't mind dying. I just hope I don't die in some miserable, stupid way. I quite frankly hope it is a quick death. When people say, aren't you afraid to fly so much? No. Why? Well, the odds will catch up with you. You might crash. And I'd say, well, in all truthfulness, that would be probably the wildest roller coaster ride I've ever had on my way out.
Yes, sir. Well, let me ask you this, because you speak a lot. I got to commend you, too, because you're very modest. But another reason why the national media had paid attention to you, as well as to your record as a judge and whatnot, is also your involvement in the Dr. King assassination. And I just want to play a quick clip I did with Dick Gregory, and I want to get your feedback on it because a lot of people don't realize the importance that you have in releasing some of this information concerning what really happened on April 4th, 1968. But we'll play this quick clip with Dick Gregory, and I'll get you.
So in King was shot April the 4th, in 1968. Well, we got hold to a doctrine, subject after action report. It's after the government go in and do something, then they make a report of the whole thing. Civil disorder operations. Lantern Spike, that's the code name. Lantern Spike. When did they go in, the 111 military intelligence? They went into Memphis on the 28th of March. Now, King didn't get shot till the 4th of April, and they came out April the 12th. They went in, set up the dirty work, and then stayed there long enough to see if anybody else they had to kill that might have seen something. Command Central, U.S. Army Intelligence Command, Fort Holliburg, Maryland. And it got 28-some pages. Top secret for official use only. And this is the whole action that they had. Military intelligence didn't kill them. The government set it up and put everything in place and had the folks they ordered to kill him. Missed, they was ready to take him out from a balcony across the street on Fire Station. So when you sit and you look at this here, and see,
Judge Joe Brown, I know you was very much involved in the James Earl Ray when he went to try to get a new trial. I just want to get your perspective on this whole thing.
Tell me, you want me to tell you what happened?
Yes, sir. Tell me what happened.
They got two-man team shot him from the cafeteria in the fire station dormitory. They were using an XM-21, which was a converted M14 with a special stainless steel barrel, 63 of which were produced in late 1967 by the Army Marksmanship Unit. The rate of rifling twist was 1 turn and 11 1/4 inches. The bullet that it was designed to shoot, or the round was a subsonic bullet to reduce the sound signature. It cost $3.60 a round. It shot a 162 grain bullet, 7.62 by 51 NATO, or 308. James Earl Ray's rifle has a 1 in 10 inch rate of rifling twist and is a 30-06, and the ballistics completely remove it from being the murder weapon. That XM21 had a 3 to 9 power Redfield variable scope on it, modified by a company known as Leatherwood, so it auto-raised. In other words, you move the stadia around, and when they fit over the target, there was a cam that elevated the scope so the rifle was sighted right in. It had a psionic suppressor on it, which was designed to reduce the sound signature, and that caused the removal of the front sight. In late December 1967, 60-some of these were requisitioned by the United States Army and the U.S. Navy for the Marines and their SEAL teams. The FBI got 5 of them, and there was a protest at the time that the FBI had no need for these. At the time, they did not have that hostage rescue unit, and there was a big fuss about it. But they got 5 of these weapons by the invoices that I have discovered, and a considerable quantity of the ammunition. Now, what they pull out of Dr. King is consistent with that. Reducing the signature of the sound by dropping the velocity of the bullet reduces the energy. The energy equals mass times velocity squared. That's Einstein's thing, but it also expresses energy. So in any event, when you've got a 2,500 foot per second, 162 grain bullet fired from a 7.62 rifle, normally you've got about 2,600 foot-pounds of energy. That's a ton and a quarter. You reduce the velocity down to 1,150 feet per second. What you have is a glorified pistol about as powerful as a 9mm. Now, from the distance involved, which is right at 50 yards, that's point blank for a rifle. And if you shoot a victim in the torso and you get a good solid hit with an expanding bullet fired from a 7.62 at that range, the wound is non-survivable even if the person's standing next to an emergency room at the time. What happened is they tried to take a head shot and they almost missed it. The bullet came from King's right side. It hit his right cheekbone, traveled downward at an angle. It knocked the molars out of the right side of his mouth, went through his tongue, exited between his jaws, left his body, hit the scapula, ricocheted around the scapula under the skin, clipped his carotid artery, which caused him to bleed out, went over his shoulder, down around the skin, over the back of his right scapula, across his back from right to left, down at a down angle, and lodged between the back skin on his left and his left scapula. The bullet did not penetrate the thorax, and if it had not clipped the carotid artery, he would have survived. They almost missed it. The rifle was left in the fire station cafeteria, and some people got it out later. Now, it's interesting that I happened to talk with the late Captain Tommy Smith, who retired as head of homicide for MPD. He was the first detective there on the scene 10, 15 minutes after the shooting. He said to the day he made the video that was the subject of the interview, he had not been able to determine who it was that ordered him to the flop house. He said the 2 witnesses that the state claimed saw Ray there were so inebriated that they could not be revived, and had they not been intense alcoholics, they would have had double the fatal dose of alcohol in their systems. He also says when he went to the window, it was totally impossible for a shot to be fired from there because there was a tree limb growing diagonally through it, which was a very large one, such that you could not even see the Lorraine Motel. He says he went back an hour later with crime scene and somebody had cut the tree down. Now, he advises and showed me the file from MPD Homicide that says, guess what? it was the Memphis Police Department's conclusion that James Earl Ray was not the shooter. Now, we've got some other evidence that is based on stuff that the State Department and Defense Department does to evaluate the public pronouncements of international figures. It relies on the fact that when humans talk, less than 15% of what you mean is conveyed by the words you use. 35+% is by your tone, and 50+% is by your body language.
Okay.
Well, they were trying to get a bottom line on what they thought was an absolute liar, so they procured 5 hours worth of tapes of one of James Earl Ray's interviews, and they ran it through. They were shocked when they found out that for this 5 hours, he was telling what their machine said was substantially the absolute truth, with but 2 exceptions. One, the question was, if you didn't do it, do you know who did it? And he indicated he was not sure, and the machine indicated he was equivocating. The other one was, do you know who did it? He said, I really don't think I know who did it, now that I think about it. It says he was equivocating. And what we came up with in our later investigation was that there were 4 or 5 people who were alternative scapegoats, Ray being one of them. So it's a much more far-ranging investigation than anyone seems to have been interested in conducting at the time. Now, it includes some African-American policemen being ordered to remove themselves from King's presence so they couldn't secure him. Even one particular African-American who courageously stayed there, but he gives us an affidavit that what happened was 2 squad cars and 10 of his colleagues came, handcuffed him twice, hands, and handcuffed his feet and hog-tied him with a rope and threw him in the back seat of the squad car and removed him. Now, we've got some very damning evidence that it was somebody official probably acting in a maverick fashion. So Ray was not the shooter. And by the way, further on that, the Court of Criminal Appeals removed me, I think, 4 or 5 times from the case, 3 or 4 times, and each time the Supreme Court put me back on it. You see, what they did, they tried to pull the trick, and they assigned this thing to my courtroom, thinking that me being me, I would just hustle James Earl Ray on off and talk some black propaganda, and that they put it that way in their minds, and that would be the end of it. But see, being fair and impartial and objective works wonders to get to the bottom of something when you don't let your preconceived notions get in the way.
Right.
So they were surprised things I did came true. Now, as it developed, a week after James Earl Ray died, the Supreme Court released an opinion that set forth what they called the gatekeeper doctrine when it came to expert evidence. And they substantially agreed with me, and off the record, one of them indicated they were going to put me back on the case, had first one of the local attorneys, Wayne Chastain, died, and 2, Ray himself died. So essentially what the state was upset about is 2 things. One, they said they didn't want me to retest the rifle because this is a quote. If the rifle were retested, it might damage it and keep it from being retested in the future, unquote. What the devil that's supposed to mean, I promise you, I do not know. The next thing is they objected to this situation. They said, we object because the court knows more about ballistics than the experts do. And see, the Supreme Court upheld that being that's the gatekeeper function. Doesn't matter. I could have appointed my own experts if I wanted to. Then the other thing that comes up is my statement that, look, this is a national, international situation. This is about a man that has a national holiday named after him. We will get to the bottom of this. You may deal with the adversarial process all you want to when it comes to arguments and conclusions, but we are going to be as objective as it is humanly possible to be in the acquisition of the evidence. And they objected that I was holding up the objectivity in the evidence.
Wow, wow. Go ahead, sir.
Well, you know, it's just like that's what's been going on around here. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
a homicide has no statute of limitations. That case is still live.
Yes, sir. I want to ask you this too. I mean, you're a very brave man. You know, like you said, people worry about your safety. You have worried about your safety. I have heard things. I know you heard about. I'm saying they revealed that Ernest Withers was an informant for the FBI. I have heard other prominent names or people still living, like Jesse Jackson or even Billy Cow's been thrown out there as possible being complicit in this whole conspiracy of Dr. King's death. Do you feel like some black people were involved in the killing of Dr. King?
Yes. I'll keep that to myself, who the suspects are. But let's put it this way. They do not include Jesse Jackson. They do not include Jesse Jackson as being a suspect.
Okay. Gotcha. And, it is so important that people know our history. I just want to thank you for doing that. I mean, if anything else, you did something that's very commendable that should stand the test of time and get us quicker to knowing about the truth about what happened.
How about this one? I paid $50,000 plus out of my own to work on getting the youngest person in the whole world on death row off death row. I got a stay of execution 27 minutes before he was due to be executed.
Wow.
At that point, he had been 15 about 2 weeks. Then Governor Bill Clinton, future president, issued a stay, and the Arkansas Supreme Court issued a stay and set the conviction aside on several grounds, including exclusion of blacks from the jury.
Wow. You said, I'm glad you brought that up because, this week marks the 70th anniversary of the execution of George Steiny Jr., the youngest person ever electrocuted in United States history in South Carolina back in 1944. He was just 14 years old.
How old was he?
14.
Oh, that's not young. Not by electrocution. But in my research of this case that I'm telling you about, we discovered that in 1934, in Arkansas, a 10-year-old girl was stealing next to a dime worth of merchandise from a 5 and dime store.
Say that again, Brother Judge. You said a 10-year-old?
10-year-old black girl, as an adult, for stealing less than a dime's worth of merchandise from a 5 and dime store in 1934.
Wow. And
they hung her 3 days later.
And 10-year-old, you know her name, or the name of the victim?
When I worked on that case, it was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm. I
can remember a lot, but I promise you I can't tell you her name at this late remove.
Wow, that's something to be known. There's so much of that happened. We got so much history that's hidden, and it takes people like you and others like myself to get the word out among our people. And we got so much technology available, but it seems like a lot of us are still in the dark. Now, with George Steiny, he was electrocuted in a chair, so that's a different form of killing. She was hanged, he was electrocuted, but he was the youngest in the 20th century.
Literally, I haven't seen a live electric chair execution, but I've seen some critical film of it that was for the law enforcement community, and it literally fries the victim. They fry, they sizzle, fat bubbles and juices flow, and there's oil all over the place, and it's hissing just like bacon, and sometimes they catch fire.
What do you think about what happened down in Oklahoma? Are you for capital punishment at all, or are you pro-death penalty? Because we're bringing it back, I understand. Tennessee is bringing it back.
Let me say this. The real issue is not whether someone is in favor of capital punishment, but what is your appreciation of the numerous revelations that are coming forward, such as the one in Shelby County where they had to set this. He was a white guy. They had to set his conviction aside and let him off death row because local Assistant DA Tom Henderson concealed evidence. That's happened an awful lot. So you don't know whether you've got some warped individual who does not have proper appreciation for human life, looking at it as a game, who is willing to conceal, fabricate, or otherwise damage evidence so it can't be used or be discovered just to get somebody on death row.
Yes, sir.
See, you have a situation called prosecutorial discretion, and the way it's been exercised over the years is blatantly biased. I give you, for example, just last month, this Latino guy's down on Beale Street.
Okay.
A drunk Mississippi deputy off duty is down there armed in a no-arm zone, and he, from of many witnesses, including police and security guards, apparently what he does is he tells the man he wants to see his green card. The guy tells him he can go do whatever because he's a citizen. So the deputy picks a fight with him, starts getting his butt beat, pulls his pistol out, and shoots the man 6 times, killing him. The DA says, guess what? We have too many conflicting statements, so I'm not going to prosecute him. Well, a sober dead man, unarmed, drunk man, armed. You know.
Wow. Jesus.
So there you go. And let's put it this way. Maybe it's her lack of experience. I've tried 42 capital murder cases. That doesn't include as being a judge. And they always have a conflict of statements unless somebody cops out and pleads guilty.
Yes, sir. Well, let me actually just go ahead.
See,
Sorry.
Put out. That's what you're getting put out there. The current incumbent has working for her as her number one person another suspicious character who was charged in a civil matter with embezzling several million dollars from his church and has pending some serious felonies behind that. Yet he still works for the DA's office. We've got a situation for the pastor. I've seen the reports. But alleged to have sodomized quite a number of young boys, 9 through about 13. It's on video, and there was no prosecution substantially. He's not on any sex offender list. He got 10 years worth of probation, and I don't know how that happened. You know, we've got the most heavy sentences given out in the United States of America for simple possession of marijuana, but then when it comes to methamphetamines, meth, you get tapped on the wrist. Come from certain backgrounds. You know, they were just experimenting. They're good kids. But then again, you get some of the good old boy types out here from the trailer parks and some of the low-income housing, various places in the county. They get jacked up, too.
Well, Brother George Brown, but does the blame lies with the Congressional Black Caucus and Bill Clinton for passing the laws they passed back in the 90s or giving harsher sentences for crack versus cocaine possession?
Well, I can't do anything about that. That's federal. And I think there's more to it. The thing about crack, even as admitted to me by some DEA agents, is it doesn't make sense. In other words, it's like got a 55-gallon drum of 93-octane gas for cheaper than you got a 55-gallon drum of crude oil. Doesn't make any economic sense. Now, see, this meth thing is a big problem. You get somebody renting a motel room and they start making meth, they might do it for a few days. Well, guess what? It costs $42,000 to $50,000 to clean it up so that the Environmental Protection Agency will okay it, so somebody doesn't bring an infant in there and wind up with the kid poison. Somebody does that to a one-bedroom apartment, it costs from $50,000 to $80,000 to clean the place up. You see, there is a big problem with that. You see all these people with bad teeth about to rot and fall out of their head.
Right.
You've been seeing a lot. That's meth. And you got a problem with that, but nobody wants to deal with it because you might be some kid in an affluent family. You see, justice should be the same in North Memphis, South Memphis, Orange Mound, Raleigh, Fraser, East Memphis, Germantown, Cordova, Bartlett, Arlington, anywhere it may be, Millington. It does not make any difference. It's supposed to be the same.
Yes, sir.
And see, I'm getting school principals and school officials that they have called down there and talked to the incumbent and begged her to try and do something about drug sales and drug houses in the neighborhoods of the schools. You know what they all report being told?
What they
it
were?
It comes with where you live. There's nothing we can do about it. That makes me disgusted. And the person, I've never seen this in all my years of being involved in politics around here. Somebody down there, and I have names, have been coming to people who indicate they do not support her and are getting threatened and intimidated. Lawyers are getting told there will be repercussions against their clients. Other people are being told that their businesses will be shut down as a nuisance. That will make them hire counsel, incur legal expenses and court costs, go to court and get the injunction lifted the week after the big money weekend was there. See, all kinds of threats like that. This thing where they are so anxious, this little popinjay that's chair of my opponent's campaign committee getting on talking about he's late. It's $25 a day. Well, would you rather 25 or 7? $25 a day or 7 raped women per day the incumbent has been in office who've gotten no justice. And plus, on top of that, they were anxious to get the list. And what they wanted the list was for the purpose of seeing who supported me so they could go lean on them. And it's been done. But I've just held off. You know, I don't need it right now, but we'll get it for the next report. Headquarters up and opening up and some other innovative stuff. We're going to stomp some butt. We're going to return justice to this county. We're going to return justice to the people. We're going to show some individuals that office does not belong to them and a select minority in this county. It belongs to all of the people. For the people, it should be by the people. It should be for somebody who is representing those people, who is about the people, who can walk where all of the people are, understand what all of the people are about, and dispense justice. Now,
yes,
that's
sir.
what it's supposed to be about.
And also, I just like... Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, Brother Brown. Go ahead.
And for God's sake, do we need anybody in the governor's office who is manifestly incompetent, wicked, and wrong as we've got down here in the DA's office right now? And then you sit there. If you notice the billboards they put up about the DA's office at the PR, they hired Gary Busser from the Commercial Appeal down there to be one of their PR people and another former reporter.
Right.
And if you consider their butt advertisement, PR, and those 2 staff members, it's more than $1 million a year. Why does the DA's office need to spend money for PR when they could be spending it to test those rape kits? And see, even then you got a mess. TBI came down here 2 years ago with $4.2 million to test the kits. They were told, no need. We only have 100 untested kits. We don't want you. But they were also down here to test some untested physical evidence that has a huge backlog to it. So that's ballistics, crime scene, a whole lot of other things. So where has this money been going? Has it been going for these people traveling all over the state and the country to supposed conferences to learn how to be better DAs, or is there a political purpose? This thing they're doing right now. They're supposed to have a reach-out program to get kids to school, so if the kid doesn't go so many times or is late or is a problem, they jack up the parent for contributing to the delinquency or failure to provide appropriate supervision. But instead of issuing a citation, and taking them downtown, the 201 Poplar, where it can be dealt with in a streamlined fashion, they arrest them and they take them to juvenile court. You don't need to take adults to juvenile court for things that adults do. See, that's wrong.
Yes, sir.
I'm talking to some, noticing one of the biggest things. Instead of just issuing a traffic ticket for some things, they issue, or a citation in lieu of arrest, they just issue a thing on order directing them to report downtown or to one of these outlying centers to be booked, for God's sake, for a traffic offense. So they have to post a bloody bond and then come back to a court appearance.
Joe Brown.
That just used to be this is getting crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Sir.
Yeah, I'm glad you throw out the information on it. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Hello?
I could go on for hours. Do you have any questions, brother?
Yeah, I want to. I know we're wrapping up this time. Yeah, it went by so fast. I really enjoy you. I hope we can have you back on again. But I got some people around the country that want to talk to you, ask you quick questions. They've been listening, from the beginning. You got a lot of fans out here, not only in Memphis and Shelby County, but also throughout the country. And I just want to ask you one quick question because of your background in show business and entertainment. And this one question people have been wanting me to ask you. They've been on my Facebook and tell me, do you believe that there's a such thing as a homosexual agenda in Hollywood with entertainment, with the media?
Yes. I ask you to do this. Go to the LGBT website and look at what they say.
Okay.
They claim, by the way, that 85 to 90% of the people that are employed in Hollywood, whether executives, directors, writers, actors, ordinary people around the set, are LGBT.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care what you behind closed doors. That's your business. But the bottom line is yes, they've been using the media to advance an agenda. And I suppose they're taking advantage of the position they have. But if you want to find out what it is, go to the LGBT site, That's lesbians, gays, bisexuals, and I think it's transgender or transsexual.
Mm-hmm.
And they were in their First Amendment stuff, but just go look and see what they say so you don't have to rely on me.
Yes, sir.
Now, I found an interesting thing that for the first half of my career out there, 15 years,
mm-hmm.
I had to fight almost every day on until I wound up prevailing and becoming so highly rated, either the number 1 or number 2 daytime syndicated show,
mm-hmm.
when I didn't have to worry about it. They always wanted me to slant what I did to appeal to this, that, or other demographic. Now, the one they were most interested in was 18 to 24.
Mm-hmm.
There was another one, 24 to 34, and then 25 to 34, and then another one, 35 to 44, 45 to 64, and then 65 and above. The lowest consuming group in that was 18 to 24. And that was the one they were trying to appeal to. Why? Since it's all about commercial television and letting sponsors know where to wisely spend their advertising dollars. That was because they had the insulting theory that women are stupid. Literally, that's what they said. And they were trying to get women between 18 and 24 to develop brand loyalty. And if they did, they would never change that for the rest of their lives. Well, that was in the days of Jill Cleaver and the housewife thing. It doesn't exist anymore, really. But they used the same theory to try and inculcate the population on some ideas. Like in California right now, it is the law that if any child from kindergarten through 12th grade decides that he or his parents decide that he or she wants to be the opposite gender, they have to be allowed to use the opposite sex's restrooms. If somebody of the opposite sex doesn't like it, then they have to find another one, and I guess that's enforced. Show me yours, I'll show you mine. But that's what happens. the other thing they have out there is they have to have a sensitivity session starting in the 3rd grade in all classes, a number of hours per week all the way to the 12th grade. I wish they'd had that about being nice to black folk, you know, or maybe nice to Native Americans, or nice to Hispanics, nice to Japanese, Chinese, Koreans, Cambodians, Vietnamese, Filipinos. I wish they'd had that. Puerto Ricans, the Costa Ricans, to Argentines, to Venezuelans, to Peruvians, the Mexicanos. I wish they'd had that, but they didn't. Now, they're right to do it, but that is a fact of life. And I'll say no more other than to say that I think they've got a right to do whatever they want to do. But sometimes I'll disagree with certain things, just like I don't think young brothers need to be running around sagged, bagged, and dragged, because that's not the way to get away ahead in the world. But there's that.
Yeah, because I know your campaign slogan is promoting and protecting womanhood. So I just knew you was a person who had an opinion on that topic in particular.
Okay.
I also want to ask you before I get on, Malcolm Shabazz, the grandson of Malcolm X. It's been over a year now since he has died in international territory in Mexico City under mysterious circumstances. And you being a person in law, order, and also your background in investigative things such as James Earl Ray, MLK matter, what is your take on that, like the lack of awareness about what happened to him and follow-up?
Well, there was a case that started out in the Ninth Circuit in California. And at first I thought it was a case, but it turned out not to be. What it was all about was a father who was an American-born citizen was concerned that the executive branch had decided to assassinate him. So the judge thought it was crazy until the Justice Department admitted that was the fact. They took the position that the executive branch has the authority to legally order any person, American citizen or otherwise, assassinated if in their sole opinion they concluded that the person was a threat to the country, even if that person had never committed a crime cognizable or indictable or chargeable in the United States of America or elsewhere. And they even alleged it could be done if the person was inside the continental United States. So the thing that gets me, the administration right now is openly stating that they have a right to kill American citizens they disagree with. That is a deep, dark rabbit hole to fall down. Now, the subject, by the way, of this initial law suit was beneficiary of an injunction that was issued by the court. Well, the U.S. government violated that injunction and assassinated the native-born American citizen who was in his 40s, and also later on assassinated his 16-year-old son, a native-born American citizen.
Wow.
Now, that's reported, and if you search online, you can find copies of the transcripts on that. So, I can't remember the name of the case right now, but that is something to keep in mind. And when you take into context what the Hoover administration, as in J. Edgar, was doing illegally,
right,
and that in the context of the fact that under Homeland Security, Patriot Act, it is now legal, that is food for thought. And we're so busy trying to give away our privacy, do social media, let everybody know our business, brag about it, pathetic though it may be or not. You know, it's a shame. It's really a shame.
Oh, you made some great points. I also want to ask you speaking of social media, I want to ask you about, I know it was a video of you, you was like, you know, you was enjoying yourself with some young ladies, you were drinking some alcohol. And I know that people said Judge Judy said something about you drinking too much or having too much on the sauce. You know, what's your take on that?
likes her Jack Daniels. She's about 4 feet 9 inches tall, about 85 pounds. If she sniffs it, she's a little over the line. So bless her, I guess she's trying. I don't hold it against her. But, you know, actually it's kind of a public service announcement. PSA, they call them, for safe and responsible. What are you supposed to do? You have a designated driver, get a cab, or get a room.
Yes, sir.
And if you notice, I wasn't trying to hit on those little girls. I was trying to show, so see, I got a pretty right. I might turn you on to one or two of my sons. And what I was complaining about the injustice of the system.
Yes, sir.
We know veritas. In other words, the Romans said, in wine there is truth. So I wasn't acting ugly, appropriate. I wasn't fall down drunk. I was in my hotel. It was 100 degrees. I was by the pool. Those little cutie pies were all waitresses at the hotel pool bar.
Well, you're a good man. You got your stuff down packed. So I just want to actually, could you take two questions from our callers? Are you able to take two questions from our callers?
Okay.
All right. I'll make it quick, and I'm going to be waiting patiently. I think this person is from California, actually. This is Reverend Denise Johnson.
Hi.
All right.
Hey, welcome to We Are Thee, Sister Johnson. How you doing tonight?
Okay, fine. Yeah. I just wanted to ask Judge Brown, is he aware that hate crimes are being committed from all across the United States, and the Justice Department is doing nothing about the majority of them? My son, Gregory Johnson Jr., was murdered in 2008. They claimed that he committed suicide by hanging with no ligature marks, although we found that he had a 6-inch crack on the back of his neck, on the back of his head, and his neck was racked. There's been other murders at San Jose State. He was a junior at San Jose State University. There have been other murders. There was a recent hate crime incident that you might know of where a young man had a bicycle lock put around his neck, and he was tortured for months. And the family filed a $5 million lawsuit against the university. He survived that. We found the Collectivo Justista has done a research and found that every 22 months there's been either a black or Latino or minority student that has been either tortured there or killed on that university. Nothing is being done about it. My son's case went all the way to Eric Holden's office as a hate crime, and nothing was ever done. It stopped right there. The FBI told me that they wouldn't do anything about it. And I just wanted to know what was your take on that, or if you were even aware that there have been hangings ever since Obama has become president all across the United States, lynchings. I call them New Age lynchings because they have never stopped.
Well, you know, the point is that you're speaking of a political problem. When you have political clout, that does not tend to happen. That's what I'm asking here in Memphis. We have enough of those horror stories. It's time the citizens exercise. The majority of the citizens here exercise their political clout, so that would not happen. Now, you bring up some interesting political issues, and I am concerned about those issues. But let me just say this. Those aren't the only places where this is happening. You've got a burgeoning population. We're over 320 million souls. There are fewer and fewer jobs. Education is getting more and more difficult to acquire. Only 28% of each year's graduating class is irrespective of race or ethnicity or male. 68% of the undergrads in the colleges and universities are female. That's only 32% boy. And then for grad schools, it's only 6% boy. So, you know, you're getting the male component somehow or another getting left behind. And that builds up a lot of a frustration. You don't see much masculine imagery on TV except maybe hip-hop gangster rap video. And that, by the way, is spreading around the world. So we need to look closely at some of the things we put out as solutions to problems and see if they're actually solutions or some part of the causality.
Thank you, Judge. I got one more caller from the Baltimore area. I think it's Sister Sabrina Green. Sister Sabrina, are you there?
Yes, greetings.
Welcome to VIP. It's always a pleasure to have you on. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay. Just wow, I have so many questions, but there's only so limited time that you can. Very, very interesting discussion. And I wanted to ask this question about with Malcolm Shabazz. You know, we have put in place, and when I say Malcolm Shabazz, that's Malcolm X's grandson, his oldest grandson, put in place ever since we found out about his death. A sister put up a Facebook, and she had been getting threats, and another sister came up with evidence. To make it quick, we suspect, we could see quite clearly that Malcolm was lured to Mexico. And unfortunately, the situation there were so many different stories that said, you know, what happened to him that. But however, what we could also see was that he was isolated, set up to be in Mexico. And it's quite interesting what you just said about, you know, what we would term COINTELPRO. And I think it was about a week or so before President Obama was in Mexico beforehand. And we look and see that whatever happened there with his killing, and with this so-called bar tab and being thrown off a building and Tijuana versus Mexico City, it's, you know, angles that just thrown out there to make a, you know, like a disbelief in trying to find the truth. So we're demanding an investigation where we had letters go to John Kerry, meaning a petition, and now at this point we're having a paper petition to get more awareness going to Obama. And I have filed for a Freedom of Information Act and it's an appeal at this time frame. So I would ask, what else can we do on this? Because, you know, we did bring this question up to Baba Dick Gregory, and he said, you know, we need to make this worldwide in attention. And if we take, this is similar to what happened to his grandfather, where it's found years later that we found out of how, yes, it looked like, you know, that so-called Muslims that were involved to have him killed, but the whole setup of it, the lure of it, happened, you know, with, you know, with the government of planning the killing, like what it is with Martin Luther King. So at this point, what can we do at this point to draw the attention? Because I'm still getting people that don't realize that he was killed.
Thank you, sister.
Well, let me suggest, considering what you can get done through social media that's just frivolous, stupid, or downright ignorant, you can get done if it is about something. And I think perhaps someone should astutely use social media to advertise what you're talking about and bring it to the public's attention and attempt to get a consensus that this should stop, and then start raising hell about it. It's a political thing. The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Now, closing, I want to ask you two. Go ahead, sir.
I'll go back a long way, and what I'm seeing is a reversion. I saw some high points that hit mid-70s, early 80s, their mid-90s, and now we're sinking back again. I talked about officials and others acting like they had cojones. Not acting that way, and it's too much not acting that way, and the public needs to be a bit more concerned about substantial reality than distractions and entertainments.
Yes, sir. And it's funny how you're so good at, you know, segue. I just want to ask you two more questions, and I'll let you out of here. I want to ask your take on the Donald Sterling situation with the L.A. Clippers.
Well, I put it this way. You know, what would happen if we recorded all of the things that all of us say in private about all of the rest of us or some of us, if somebody we trusted treacherously recorded what we said?
That'd be something.
But you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's sort of like the sense of what went on with the government and search and seizure. In other words, the government at one time had all of the means of snooping, and it was prohibited from doing something with what they discovered when they were snooping improperly.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the citizens have excellent means of doing that kind of thing themselves, and we are all too readily attuned to doing what we tried to keep the government from doing to us, we do to ourselves. So somewhere in there needs to be a line drawn about, this is just something you should not use. Now, I did not hear the N-word in the entirety of that recording.
Right.
There's a little backstory on that whole thing, which is, for God's sake, woman, I'm supposed to be your man. You're my mistress. Everybody knows that. Come on now. Don't be hanging around with these young players that I play and embarrassing me. That's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Then my rival who's trying to buy the damn Clippers, Magic, he already controls the Dodgers. He owns them, trying to get an NFL football team there. For God's sake, why you got to go get all up under him? Now, I know Magic. I consider him a friend.
Mm-hmm.
A great man.
Mm-hmm.
But, let's get with reality. How many guys get uptight because their girlfriend starts flirting around with somebody at a party?
Yeah. So when you say this is more about sex than race, this is more about sex than race, the Donald Sterling situation?
This is more about ratings, entertainment, and scandal.
Okay.
It's stuff that 50 years ago, 40 years ago used to be on the third section, back page, the gossip column.
Mm.
And now it comes front page, and we are all into sensationalistic tabloid journalism, where we get more concerned about what our leaders are doing in a bedroom than what they're doing business-wise. I mean, I don't know the whole story. It wasn't that much interest to me. I just paid light attention to it. But it's like, he was in private. He didn't say it to anybody's face. He didn't use the N-word. He didn't use any cuss words.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for God's sake, what First Amendment are we that sensitive these days? Oh, he looked at me strange. I want to prosecute. It was a hate look.
It's like with Mark Jackson, though. I know that they said the reason why he got fired from the Golden State Warriors as a coach because he used homophobic remarks in the locker room. Like one of the assistant coaches was recording the meetings in the locker room.
Yeah. Come on. How many, come on. Don't be so sensitive.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to ask you, because I know
everybody.
Go ahead, Brother Joe.
We did this. A lot of people would be jacked up. They said something intemperate at some point in their lives, quite often. See?
Yes, sir. And what about it? I know you're a guy that know how to.
I don't know all the details. Maybe somebody wiser than me knew something I did not know. So maybe there was a basis, but I think we're just getting too thin-skinned.
What about, I'm going to ask you, Beyonce, Solange, and Jay-Z, their situation?
I don't know all the details. Me being me, I'm always hesitant to give an opinion about how something's going to come out when I don't know all the facts or I was not there as a witness.
You sound like a person that understands law very well.
To tell you that you get all this story in the media about how ironclad a case something is, and then you're the judge that hears it, and it is nowhere like what they've been reporting.
Yes, sir. And one more thing I want.
You keep hearing this.
Go ahead.
You keep hearing this stuff about and Trayvon Martin and Zimmerman.
Yes.
Actually, it was a political thing. The DA's office was concerned about its constituency, and the person that actually had the right that was impinged upon when it came to no retreat was Trayvon Martin. See, but Anderson Cooper on CNN trying to do his anti-gun thing, and then you got Fox News doing a knee-jerk reaction to it, and in total ignorance of what the law was, you got all this put out in front of the American public, and now they're talking about Castle Doctrine, which had nothing to do with the case, no retreat, which actually was Trayvon Martin's right, not Zimmerman's. See, so, you know, we need some responsibility in journalism.
Yes, sir.
It's got to be more an entertainment for ratings and get back to it was a public service that citizens were supposed to pay attention to objectively instead of getting entertained.
I want to see one more thing. I think it's so important because people get this all the time. I want to know, is there such thing, in your opinion, as Illuminati? That people always talking about, well, so-and-so is a part of a secret society, some of these celebrities. They make a pact with the devil or whatever they do. Do you feel there's a such thing as Illuminati, a secret organization?
Well, let's put it this way. I know since I am, and it has nothing to do with the Masons.
Okay, well, Brother Judge Brown, I want to thank you once again for taking so much time out your schedule to talk with us and, you know, give your point of view on so many different things. It's very much appreciated. And I just want to get your closing words or thoughts. How can we support you out here?
You can support me. There's a website coming up, Elect Judge Joe Brown, District Attorney, or something of those words. We can use contributions. I can put money in my shell, but we don't want the Ross Perot effect where it looks like you bought something. Citizens do it. You can take campaign contributions. It's allowed up to $1,500 a person in the state of Tennessee or entity. So you can send that in, or you can send it to the offices of, let me get you the address on that. Hold on, I'm pulling it up on one of these wonder phones.
That's okay. We're very grateful to have you on today. Wonderful.
To elect Judge Joe Brown, District Attorney, to 2670 Union Avenue Extended, Suite 909, Memphis, Tennessee, 38112. Checks, money order, cash, whatever.
Okay, we got this.
Committed to elect DA. That's 2670 Union Avenue Extended, Suite 909, Memphis, Tennessee, 38112.
Thank you, Brother Joe Brown, so much. You are a great person, a true public servant, a man of the people. In the words of the late, great Duke Ellington, we love you madly, and you keep on producing and pushing, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, thank you.
Okay.
I'll catch you later.
Oh, you definitely will, sir. Thank you. And that does it for this edition of We All Be Radio. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight, family. And like I always tell you all, online and off, the best is yet to come. Take care. Good night. Keep producing and pushing.